Well, today it's time for us to harvest our sweet potatoes. Well, it's end of September and we've made the decision that it's time to try and get all of our sweet potatoes harvested. Essentially, the last couple nights we've had a bit of a frost scare. We haven't had frost, but it's coming. And the next 2 days are supposed to pour rain. And then after that, it's going to be cold. So this is our window to get these out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that.
So this year, we made the decision through trial and error in previous years to only grow our sweet potatoes in buckets. And this is one section of our garden that we planted first. So in previous years, the buckets really produced nicely formed sweet potatoes, and they always seem to be very productive. So
step one is we're going to cut back all the greens so that we can see what we're working with. Now, one reminder about growing sweet potatoes: if the greens get frosted, that's not a good thing, because what tends to happen is it sends a chain reaction down the stem into your tubers and sort of halves or significantly increases their deterioration during storage. So you definitely want to harvest them before the frost hits. Now, in years past we have covered them, but we've got these spread out a bit, so we're going to get cutting.
So even though these sweet potato greens are edible for us as well, that's not our plan this year. We may put a few really nice young ones in the fridge to keep for a little bit, but for the most part these are going to become rabbit food and fish foods. So by no means are we going to waste any of these. I anticipate we're going to have a couple wheelbarrow fulls, so we'll see. I don't think the rabbits can even eat all that, but it'll keep for a day or two anyways.
Well, we have this blue bucket or blue barrel trimmed back. There's at least 6, maybe 7 plants in here, and you can see I've cut them back to just the little stubs. So we're basically about ready to harvest here. Now, one thing I will say before I get digging here is in previous years we have used these blue barrels, and we've really liked them because they've got drainage holes in the bottom. They're versatile. We do plant other things in them, but they do keep a bit of moisture, which seems to work well for the sweet potatoes. The other thing that's nice is we can amend the soil to be sort of specific to whatever we want to grow. So in the case of the sweet potatoes, it's fairly well drained, yet still retains moisture, but it's also fairly fertile. So we took a lot of green off. Let's see what's under the soil. First, I am going to pull back the mulch layer, and you can see this is quite nice black sort of fertile soil that they're growing in. Now, the one thing about sweet potatoes is you do want to be a bit careful with them. So we're going to start with this one here. Let's see.
Here comes the moment of truth.
That one's in there pretty good. They're all in here pretty good.
Nice thing too about growing them in buckets is they're kind of confined and contained, so they can't wander too far from the plant.
So we're finding a few, but so far they're smaller.
Pitty tiny.
Although we do have multiple kinds in here. We kind of mix and matched this year, and you can see
our purple ones
the long
did their
purple
thing.
ones did pretty good so far.
Let's see, he'll pull that one out because it's kind of shaded in there.
So this variety is done fairly well. These are decent size, comparable to last year.
These were the ones we were skeptical on keeping because they're that long finger instead of a meaty...
big fat tuber.
Yeah.
But they taste amazing.
And this year, it's looking like they're going to produce at least longer usable ones, where last year we just got a ton of little ones that were just kind of useless besides fries.
So that's not bad so far.
So there you can kind of see we've got some of those little orange ones, which usually are big, meaty, fat ones. And then we've got some beautiful purple ones. So I'm pleased with the purple ones. A little disappointed with the orange ones so far. So Chris just pulled out this gorgeous orange sweet potato. We don't know what our sweet potatoes are called. We just have a couple varieties that have been kicking around for a long time. But again, not as big as last year, but nice and uniform, and none of the real little guys, which is kind of nice because that makes them far more usable. I think with a little more time, they probably would have done better, but we only have a certain window to have these grow here. So while Chris is starting on bucket number 2, I'm going to weigh what we got in our first barrel. So I'm putting all the little guys in there first. As you can see, we did get some decent orange ones in the end. They're not too shabby. There was only our one plant of the purple ones, but Chris thinks that there might be more purple ones in the next barrel, which is good because we're really liking how those ones grew this year. So, grand total for this is 1,172 grams in our first barrel. Chris is about to pull out the last one in the second barrel. To be honest, very disappointing. We're going to have a lot less weight than we did in the last one. We're wondering if it maybe got a little bit shaded by this big Jerusalem artichoke that's next door to it. So barrel 2 has now been added to this bucket. Barrel 2 only produced a meager 447 grams, so not even a full pound of sweet potato. But as Chris was stating, these are so easy to harvest in the barrels. Food is food, and we have very little damage, whether it's caused by us or rodents, which is a really nice thing, because I know that was something that we did have with the in-ground ones last year, with the mulch and everything, was a lot of chewing and rodent damage. So I suppose that is one plus. Well, barrel 3 seems to be a little bit more productive than barrel 2, that's for sure. We've got a lot of tubers. Again, that thing of maybe they needed a bit longer, but the purple ones, again, I think are winning.
I think so.
Lots of long, thin purple fingers.
It's not bad. They look skinny, but they're very flavorful.
They cut up nice and dice up for stews and things like that. So these ones actually were a favorite for us this year. And I'm super pleased because they're doing really well. Look at the length of this one. I don't know. Let's zoom out.
Big one.
It's a good long one. It's like 12 inches long. So this barrel here is not doing too shabby. Of course, the moment to stop filming, Chris finds a jackpot. Look at that beauty.
We'd quite go jackpot, but it's
not a jackpot, but it's a jackpot this year. This year hasn't been the best. There's another strand. Now those ones are the orange ones, and they still grew the long leggy too. But this one here has some nice big ones on it. Or at least a nice big one. Not bad. Barrel number 3 produced 1,372 grams. So we're a little bit better than what we've seen so far.
Well, buckets 1, 2, and 3 were a little bit shaded, especially bucket number 2. I honestly think that's a big reason why it didn't produce as much. But I'm now on to bucket 4, which is kind of at the other end of the barrel row, and it's looking pretty promising so far. So the first sweet potato that I'm excavating out here is really looking like a decent cluster, which is pretty awesome. And I'm being really careful to not damage it, because that is sort of one of the big things with sweet potatoes, but I'm having trouble getting under this one, so I'm going to keep going and we'll see what this looks like when I get it out.
Still working on it, but it looks like it's going to be a good one. I have to say, harvesting sweet potatoes is almost as much like Christmas as harvesting potatoes. There it is.
Oh, and one more that
still attached in there.
Still attached. So that's not a bad little cluster.
That's very nice.
Not a bad cluster at all. And that's only the first from this barrel.
Still 5 more to go. So barrel 4, 1,299 grams. Even though it was looking promising and really good, did not top out as our best barrel yet, but some gorgeous, look at how long that one is. He's beautiful. Gorgeous sweet potatoes in there, and some of the orange ones even grew in that nice shape. Barrel 5 has produced a new winner. 1,442 grams of sweet potatoes out of that barrel. And definitely some that are pretty nice looking, but one thing we are discovering as you look over at our pile that's developing here is the purple sweet potatoes are taking over. And I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. I mean, we like to kind of try and keep the variety, and we don't want to end up with just one, but if one is doing better, I guess that's a sign.
I think I'm about to uncover one of our largest sweet potatoes so far. So that one's definitely our biggest cluster so far. And there was a few more that came off of it.
Look at that one. He's
That's
gorgeous.
a big one.
Gorgeous sweet potato right there.
So super happy in the sun, apparently.
This one was a great haul. I'm excited to weigh this one and see. I think we might have a new winner. Certainly produced some gorgeous big piles of tubers. So let's get this weighed and see just what we're working with. Barrel 6 has produced us 1,901 grams, which is a little over 4 pounds. So that's not too bad out of one barrel. Got some gorgeous big guys, which are really great. We'll be keeping those for starting our slips next year. Don't eat the best ones because they're what you need for starting the next ones. Look at that. That's a gorgeous orange one. Kind of your classic, traditional, what most people think of as a sweet potato. But we're certainly loving how these purple ones are doing this year. So our last barrel in this section of our raised gardens here, we ended up with 934 grams, so just over 2 pounds out of this last barrel. Well, I got over here and Chris is already hard at work pulling up our first cluster out of this one.
Not bad.
Not bad. Interestingly enough, these ones were planted at least 2 weeks after the other ones, and they're kind of producing the same thing. Well, there is from bucket number 8 in our new for 22 garden. We didn't bring the scale over here. We're going to weigh bucket 8 and 9 together. But certainly looking like one of our better hauls. So interestingly enough, all the purple ones, none of the orange guys. Chris has already started on our final bucket of sweet potatoes, and there was a nice little orange one in there, but I'm imagining the rest is going to be purple. So buckets 8 and 9 combined was 3,337 grams. So that brings us to a total harvested today of 26 1/4 pounds. So not too bad. I would definitely not say that that means Team Sweet Potato wins, but it's enough to make it worth doing and keep going with it, and they're going to taste delicious.
Well, as per last year, we have our harvest laid out on the racks in the greenhouse to cure. And then once they're done curing, they'll end up going in the house, getting boxed up for the winter. But all in all, not quite as much as last year, but we didn't plant nearly as many sweet potatoes as last year, so pretty impressed with it, to be honest.
One thing that's nice about the greenhouse is even though our outside temperatures have dropped down to about 15 degrees, inside, especially if we keep the windows closed, we're still hot. It's like 29 degrees in here, which is exactly what you need to cure these sweet potatoes. You want between 27, 29, which, what was that Fahrenheit?
80 to 85.
Yeah, 80 to 85 Fahrenheit. It can take up to 10 days to cure. I guess it's kind of use your discretion, but we do find curing them does help with the taste. It brings out the sweetness, and it is important to do for long-term storage. But all in all, 26 1/4 pounds isn't anything to be too thought of as too shabby, and we're glad, and it's kind of one of those things. We're really excited about how many really, really nice purple, I almost said purple potatoes. We're really excited about how many, we are really excited about, one more time. We're really excited about how many purple sweet potatoes we got this time. Really nice ones. Like, we got a few little dinky ones last year, but not much to really work with. And we do love the flavor of those ones. So yes, they seem to have kind of taken over this year, but we're not going to be too worried about that. So that's our sweet potato harvest wrapped up for 2022. So hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for Team Potato, because that is going to be